Justin Diamond, Alvin, let's go.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Movie Reviewers channel. Before we get to the storyline, I hope all of you a great day. Please like, share, and also subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to click the bell icon to stay updated with my new videos.
An old man named Pil-ju works as a part-time server at a restaurant. His young coworkers love him because of his kind personality and good manners. During the Christmas season, he usually dresses up as Santa and entertains the customers at the restaurant. His closest coworker is a young man in his 20s named In-gyu. They often look out for one another and also have an intricate style of handshake. One day, Han receives a phone call from his daughter and goes numb. In-gyu, noticing the change in his mood, inquires if something is wrong. Han does not respond to his question and simply walks away. Later, we see him rushing to the hospital to see his now dead wife. He holds her hand and tells her that he's proud of her and that he will see her soon in the afterlife. Following this, the scene shifts to Han's wife's funeral, where many people express their condolences to him. Then, Han has a brief conversation with his doctor, who worries about his health. He also hands Han a bottle of medicine to help him relieve his pain. After this, the doctor asks Han if he really intends to carry out his plan. The latter responds that he has already fulfilled all his responsibilities as a husband and father. Now, there's nothing that can make him wait anymore. Later that evening, Han enters the storage room, where he reveals a large bulletin board covered in newspaper clippings and other material about his plan. Then he records himself, mentioning that he has a brain tumor and Alzheimer's disease. He also reveals his plan, which is to kill 5 people who destroyed his family during Japan's reign in Korea. He continues to describe the tortures his family endured. First, his father was falsely accused, arrested, and beaten to death. Secondly, his mother couldn't tolerate her husband's suffering and died in despair. His older brother was deceived by a friend and died while working in a horrific mine. Finally, his older sister was taken as a concubine for Japanese soldiers. She couldn't bear the embarrassment and hence committed the unthinkable after returning back home. Since Han forgets about things a lot, he engraves the names of the culprits on his fingers. Later, he digs up an old gun from the ground. The next day, Han meets In-gyu at a restaurant and asks him to be his personal driver for a few days. At first, In-gyu is taken aback by the unexpected request and inquires about it. Han responds by explaining that due to his age and lack of a driver's license, he needs someone to drive him around. Han also mentions that In-gyu will not be fired from his current job and that he would also be paid. Following this, the two head to the car. In-gyu is taken aback to learn that it's a Porsche. He inquires about it and Han mentions that it's an unregistered car he's renting for a week. After a while, they reach their first destination, a hospital. Han leaves, instructing In-gyu not to wait for him or call him until he himself does. Han then pulls out his hospital map and examines it. After that, he enters the hospital and uses his age as an excuse to get a seat from a couple. We later learn that he wanted that specific seat because it was out of the CCTV's range. Later at noon, a cleaning lady awakens Han and informs him that he can't sleep at the hospital. He soon remembers his motive for being there as he stares at the names engraved on his fingers and sees the cranky wife of the director. When Han is about to leave to carry out his plan, In-gyu appears unexpectedly, startling him. Han angrily asks why he didn't wait for him, but In-gyu asserts that he was worried, as it has been more than 5 hours. Han continues to urge In-gyu to return home, saying he has important work. As a result, In-gyu starts getting irritated. He tells Han not to be a prick before walking away. Afterward, Han, using a long fabric piece, opens a door to get to the director. When he makes it inside, he wakes up his first target by throwing a glass of water on his face. The director finds himself tied down to the bed, and he furiously asks Han who he is. In response, Han tells him that he killed his innocent father a long time ago. Hence, he has to die now. Scared, the director pleads for mercy, but Han covers his face with a pillow and shoots him twice, killing him instantly. After a while, the police arrive at the murder scene, where the cleaning lady informs Chief Kong about the suspicious man she saw leaving the previous night. Elsewhere, as In-gyu is at a game arcade, he receives a message from his friend, informing him of the hospital director's death. A man who left the hospital lobby late at night is being called the prime suspect. In-gyu is taken aback when he finds that the man on the news is him. Just then, he receives a text from Han indicating the next location. The next target is an author who's at a press conference. After he finishes up and prepares to head home, Han asks In-gyu to tail his car. During this time, In-gyu brings up the event from the previous day, and also the fact that he's being called a suspect. However, Han simply ignores it and urges In-gyu to focus on the task at hand. Shortly after, as the author arrives home, Han approaches him and starts babbling about the past. The author gets angry and inquires who he is, and Han reveals that he's the brother of the same person who was deceived by the author and sold to work in a mine. Saying this, he kills the man by shooting him twice. Since Han's silencer was destroyed, the gunshot was loud enough for In-gyu to hear. So, upon hearing it, he rushes there, only to find himself in the midst of an unexpected scene involving Han and the dead author. In-gyu is too shocked to move, so he shakes with panic until Han informs him that the author has already died and that they must leave. Later, the cops arrive at the scene and start investigating. One of them finds a photograph of the author with the recently deceased director and 2 other individuals. Back to Han, he awakens from a dream about his dead sister and finds himself at In-gyu's house. He turns on the TV and finds that the news channels are searching for the suspect, i.e. In-gyu. This terrifies the latter, but Han calms him down, saying the cops can't recognize him from that angle. He also promises to do everything in his ability to prevent In-gyu from being blamed. As the two continue discussing, suddenly 2 thugs arrive. Turns out In-gyu had borrowed money from them to cover his father's medical expenses, so they've come to ask for it. When In-gyu mentions that he doesn't have it, the thugs start causing a commotion. Fortunately, Han intervenes and promises to pay the debt in a week. This reassures the thugs and they walk away. Later, Han hands In-gyu a bag full of cash, more than enough to pay off all his debts. This brightens In-gyu up a little, and he uses this opportunity to ask Han why he's killing people. The old man explains everything right from scratch, and also reveals that he has 3 more people to kill. Hearing this, In-gyu's expression quickly changes. At the police station, officers are discussing who will be in command of the Japanese army celebration. Chief Kong quickly volunteers when he learns that the Japanese officer in the photo he saw earlier at the author's residence will be there. The scene then shifts to the event where Han gets past security with a fake ID. Shortly after, he sees the Japanese officer and starts remembering the time when his sister was forced into being a concubine. Later, Han heads to the toilet where he manages to create an explosive using the items he brought. He then pulls out his gun from where he had hidden it. After he leaves, Chief Kong, who is suspicious of him, searches the toilet but finds nothing. In the next scene, the Japanese officer approaches the stage for his speech. Chief Kong, who is still suspicious of Han, alerts the other cops to keep an eye on him. They immediately spread out and scan the area. One of them finds out that Han had actually used the ID of the dead author. Alarmed, they begin looking for him, but just then, Han detonates the explosive, filling the room with smoke. After a while, he creates another explosion, resulting in total chaos. The cops are trying to escort the Japanese officer to a safe place, but suddenly, Han arrives and kidnaps him. He then locks the door and drags the Japanese officer to the elevator, where he brutally kills him. Kong is already on the ground floor, waiting to arrest the perpetrator. But when the elevator doors open, he only finds the dead body of the Japanese officer. Meanwhile, Han, who is badly injured, summons In-gyu and manages to flee the place successfully. Later, Han awakens in his friend's hospital and asks In-gyu for one last request: to film him. In the video, Han discusses his next target, Kim. and how he destroyed numerous Korean families in order to gain fortune and honor. He also continues to expose all of Kim's wrongdoings and how he was never punished for them. Instead, he was regarded as a military hero. Later, the two are arrested by Kim's men. They are about to be executed, but just then, In-gyu asserts that he has a copy of the film somewhere else. So he takes them to the place where the notorious thugs who he borrowed money from live. As the two parties see each other, they get into an intense fight. Fortunately, Han manages to save In-gyu. He also apologizes for dragging him into this situation and thanks him for everything he has done. Before the cops arrive at the fight scene, Han flees in his Porsche. However, In-gyu is not so lucky, as Officer Kang apprehends him. The scene then shifts to the next day, where several army personnel are celebrating the launching of Kim's statue. He also appears in his army uniform. As Kim continues to speak about how he's safeguarded Korea, Han recalls the time when Kim spoke similarly but in support of Japan. Following this, he pulls out his gun and points it at Kim's granddaughter. He then threatens the evil general to expose all his past deeds. Having no other options, Kim finally speaks up. He goes on to describe how he sold himself to the Japanese government, imprisoned anybody who spoke Korean, urged Korea's youth to fight for Japan, and deceived several Korean women into becoming Japanese concubines, including Han's sister. Hearing this, everyone, including Kim's granddaughter, are taken aback by this information. Han then points the gun to Kim and shoots him dead, mentioning that they will meet in hell. After a while, Kang and In-gyu arrive at the scene. They notice Han with his gun surrounded by cops on all sides. In-gyu mentions that he finds the situation very odd, as Han is getting arrested before he kills his fifth target. However, when he rethinks it through, he realizes that the fight target is none other than Han himself. We are then taken to the past, where Han meets his sister dressed as a Japanese soldier. This shocks the latter, and she inquires if he realizes he's dressed in the same uniform as the soldiers that harassed her. Han responds by saying that he doesn't care what happened to her. This means that he was also one of the reasons for his family's demise. Back in the present, as Han is about to kill himself, In-gyu appears and begs him to stop. He also tells Han that if he commits the unthinkable, everything he's done for justice will become futile. Hearing all this, Han gets emotional and finally drops the gun. In the final scene, we see In-gyu visit Han in prison, who no longer recognizes him due to his dementia. However, he remembers their particular handshake, which causes In-gyu to be emotional. The movie ends as the two hug, just like they used to in the past.